Okay, for exercise 4, if we go back to our page, so for exercise 4, now we're going to start assembling a series of parts. There's a plan option and there's an elevation option. Each one's going to be done slightly differently. Okay, so if we look at a plan, we're going to assemble a series of battens, and if you zoom in, they'll be slightly thicker because there'll be timber sections that you're seeing, and then you're going to have a beam section in between. So we're cutting through the object and we're looking down in essence. Okay, so this is a plan view, it's typical. Here where it's an elevation, we're just looking at things from a distance. Okay, so different, we look at things slightly differently. Okay, with a plan, so straightforward. So what we need to do, now that we've got a library of parts, it's just about putting this information together. Okay, so we're going to go to Object. With Object tool selected, you can click on Object. Remember, you can also use this tool here to select, so you can select Open Library Manager and you can select a different object. So here I can go and say I want a timber section. So let's start with timber section, press OK. Okay, now you might have to go and change where these snap from. So let's just say I want a timber section. I want to snap from that corner, press OK. So I'm going to add an object. Okay, so I've got my first object in, and it's a 38 by 38 piece of timber. Now I need to duplicate these. So now remember, spacebar and select, or you can enable this and then it'll automatically select these objects. So totally up to you. I'm going to use the drag tool. So use the drag tool, Control, so I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to snap to this endpoint and wait for Archicad to find it as a coordinate. I'm going to press Alt Shift together, and you see it resets the coordinates. So now if I type in 38, my apologies, that should be in the Y direction, so let's do that again. Control, hover. Okay, so that's Alt. So now if I press Tab, now I want that 38 from that point. Now I can select both of these, so Shift, I'm going to select just this point over here, Control, so we're duplicating it. Okay, so if you also go to Edit and you go to Move or Distribute, you can see it gives you these options. Here are the shortcuts as well. So you get more options here, by the way, if you go to Move, Align. Okay, so you are limited sometimes. So if you just select these objects again, you can see, select these. If you hold down this drag arrow, you get different options here as well. Okay, so just remember, that's the edit menu. Let me just switch that back on. It's the drag elements menu. Yeah, so it's a drag elements one. So just add that if you need to have it. Okay, drag elements. Okay, so that's quite handy. Now that I've got these two objects selected, select both. I'm going to use the drag function or Control Shift D. It will copy these. It will drag and okay, so I'm going to use that point as well. I'll tab, and now I'm going to say in X direction, X 38. Good. All right, so I've done the first bit of what I needed to do. Now I'm going to go and say add, but now we can measure. So now you can use the measure tool, and let's say from there to there. That is, okay, let's just use measure again. 114. Okay, so that's 114. So I'm going to go and say object, select here again. I'm going to select my timber beam. Here I can just say 114, and I can use the same location, and I can simply snap this in the right location. Done. So now I've built this information very quickly. Now I need to add a series of guidelines to help me draft the rest of the information. Okay, so remember, you need to upload this project file when you're done as well. Don't worry about the dimensions. I just want you to get used to drafting and using these tools. Okay, now if you go to guides, if you switch off, okay, this guide tool. So a lot of you might not have the guidelines. So if you press L on your keyboard, it'll switch them on and off. These guidelines are very handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of guidelines. It'll snap in the center, so you click and drag, snap in the center, so you click and drag. Now you'll see it gives me a guideline. These are guidelines, okay? It'll help you draft a bit easier. I'm going to snap to the top. I'm going to drag this down. I'll even snap at an angle if you want to, sometimes, depending on the object. I'm going to snap it down to there. Now I'm going to hover on this line, so hover, and then click the drag tool up. I'm going to type in 25. And I'm going to use this bit of line work. I'm going to click and drag. So don't use that. I'll use the other command was active. So activate that move function, and I'm going to go 25 in this direction. Okay. Why did I do this? It just means if I start drafting now, if I start drafting some line work, I can now put in the information that is required for exercise 4. Okay, so for exercise 4, I'm just going to put in some guidelines. So center lines, a center line, instead of drawing the nuts and bolts, sometimes we can use center lines that will denote a fixing line or a center line of where fixing will need to be considered around. Okay, so for now, I just want you to draw center lines. We're not going to draw nuts and bolts. We will get to that later. Okay, now in line work, we need to go and select our favorite layer or favorites. So if you go to favorites, and this is another little trick I'd like to show you. So these libraries sometimes are quite hard to see. If you're seeing, you'll see that it is hard to see what you're looking for. Okay, but if I go to centerline, for example, centerline, if I go to centerline new, I can do that, but I can also add this to favorites. So if you add something to favorites and you give it a name, that's kind of what I've done here. So these you can add as well. So you can add new favorites, you can reset, you can update certain favorites. Okay, but it's just a quicker way to work. You see it presets everything for you. All I need to do now is draw a center line from there to there and a center line from there to there. Once I've done the center lines, I can select on this icon with the L tool. I can right click and I can say remove all guidelines. Straightforward. So there I've drafted. Please go and give me that dimension. So go and measure that dimension that I'm looking for. So please go and give me that dimension. So make sure the correct dimension is active and give me that dimension. Okay. Please give me that. Please measure the correct dimension and give correct answer. Okay. Alright, so that's it for exercise 4.